We live. Okay, good evening everybody. My name is Johnny. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting before, welcome to Allilon Unplugged number 8. I'm going to introduce you to some very special people this evening. We have some special guests all the way from Canada, from Quebec.
Hello. Hi, hello.
What we'll do is we'll go into who those people are, what they do, and the fact that we're very lucky to have them with us tonight. Also, we have somebody else very special. We have Mrs. Madeline Murphy, everybody.
Hello. Hi.
So Madeline is going to be talking to you about colour. Before we carry on, I just want to double check that we are live. Sammy, are we live? We are live. Brilliant. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly describe to you what I'm going to be doing with my haircut. I want to quickly say thank you to you. Tonight I'm going to be doing something a little bit creative. I'm going to be doing something where we're going to have a bit of fun with hair. A little bit less kind of rules being played as such today. I'm going to start by cutting the hair in front of the ear. The main principle of my shape today is going to be something that has some movement in the top, but at the same time has an element of strength to it. I really want this to be quite impactful. I've got an incredible colour done by Madeline. This is my beautiful model Sam. Sam is a professional dancer and she likes her hair to be striking. It's important for her. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to pass it over to Maddie to explain to you what it is that she's going to be working on this evening. To start off with, this is going to be my first zone. As you can see, there's a kind of square type zone which stops behind the ear. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Davines Day Mist, really important, as a cutting lotion. And I'm going to spray all the excess hair and really groom this super clean. The reason I'm going to do that is that way when I'm scissor over combing the area in the front, I'm not going to actually have an effect on it. What I'm also going to do is use my new Allilon Allilon 105. Now the reason I'm using this comb here is basically, it's literally, I just got it delivered today, so this is our first sample of it. I'm going to use the wide tooth comb rather than my new Allilon Sessibon comb to basically cut my scissor over comb, because this will give me a much greater length due to the width of the teeth. And I'm going to talk to you about the difference of combs and how it relates to the shape that we're doing, okay? So I'm going to start by scissor over combing this area, and then I'll come back and I'll describe to you little tips that you can use when scissor over combing, okay? Madeline, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Johnny. Hiya. Hello guys. Hi, I'm Madeline. Nice to meet you. This is my gorgeous model Tilly. I decided that I was going to show you a little bit of a classic technique today. So I'm doing some woven highlights for you using herringbone sectioning. But Tilly has actually a really deep side parting. So let me just get my sections back together for you. I'll show you exactly what I've worked with here. So, as you can see, Tilly has previously coloured hair. She's got highlights in her hair, really golden, really warm, and she likes that. I think it really suits her. This is her everyday makeup that she wears. She's got quite a peachy blush, really beautiful eyes, gorgeous creamy skin tone. So I wanted to work with that. Tilly's natural parting, and where she likes to wear it, falls right down here. It's really deep into the side there. So what I've done is I've sort of twisted my herringbone highlights where my two top sections would be, and I've just put them on the side there because I really want that nice variation of colour running through the sides. So this section here and this section here are my herringbone. So we've got our little section over the ear there, and we have our box in the back. So
it's this panel here.
Yeah, one here.
Okay, this panel here.
Yeah.
Okay, then we have obviously our box in the back.
Starting at the crown just above the occipital bone, as you can see there, guys. And then we have on this side, exactly. Exactly, but this one here is our extra one because Tilly's part's so deep that we don't have this one on the other side. So what I'm doing here, guys, is I am working with a bleach. I'm using the Davines Mask Bleach. We are the Davines flagship store here at Enna Salon. So we use exclusively Davines products. I'm using the Mask Bleach with 10 volume to start with. And you'll see, guys, that I use an awful lot of clips when I work with highlights because I want every single hair to be exactly where I want it. So in this bowl, I have the Mask Bleach with 10 volume. So it's a really nice creamy consistency here. So that is a 1 to 2 combination with 10 volume just where I'm starting. Then I will up to 20 on the top. And here I have my 12.71. This is going to give us a really nice creamy beige blonde and really blend well with the highlights that Tilly's got already.
So does that bleach go flaky at all?
No, it doesn't actually. So it's a non-volatile bleach, as the high lift. The high lift does not bubble, doesn't give you that big sort of marshmallowy effect that you tend to get with high lift. Sorry, and exactly
That's
the
genius.
same. Yeah, it's fantastic. So it's a non-volatile solution. So when you've got tiny little weaves like this, which I am doing in Tilly's hair today, she'd like it to be as natural as possible. Can you see that on the camera there?
Pretty much.
Really tiny fine weaves, and then you'll notice my foils as well. I don't even know if you'll be able to pick that up on the camera there, Andy. Have got a tiny fold in them. Excuse my shaky hands, I'm a little bit nervous.
Nice nails.
Thank you very much, had them done specially. So my tiny little fold is going to go right up to the root there. And like I was explaining last week, guys, I've got nice flat, no digging with my weaving there. So as you can see, I don't know if you can get right in there, Andy. That top of the foil is right up to the root area there. Try to get all those baby hairs away. And then this fold is where it tells me to take my colour to. So when I hold this in my hand and then I apply my bleach, I'm going to stick that hair down. And I'm going to pull up with my fingers, down with my brush, right up to that little tiny fold that's there. That gives me a lip to stop my bleach expanding and coming out of the foil if I am using a bleach that's volatile. So I'm just running a little bit of bleach over bits that are darker. And like I showed you last week, guys, I fold my foil in half, holding it at the top so it doesn't slip. Secure it at the bottom. I put my hand underneath using the tail of my comb. I fold up the bottom and then to the shape and size of the section. I like to use lots of clips and just move my baby hair. See, I caught just a little bit of baby hair there, guys. And that is what's you'll find dragging and pulling on your highlights. So it's really important to make sure you clean that out. Exactly. Take them out with the foil that you don't need them on. So if I spin, can you, oh no, I've locked it. That's why I won't spin. If I spin that slightly and I pull this hair right up for you, you can see that that piece of baby hair that I moved is actually coming from the section above. It's just so fine that it does get stuck a little bit. So I know when the guys are cutting, they try not to use any clips. When I'm doing colour, I use as many clips as I like just to make sure none of those hairs are going to get involved in these ones down here.
So you use all of theirs then?
Exactly, I'm the clip stealer. Come home with arms full of... I have been known on a night out for people to go, oh, you're a hairdresser then. I say, how do you know that? Are you covered in clips? So I'm going to pop this one up. This section is going to be slightly different. It's wider. So I'm going to place two foils next to each other. Pick that hair up. And just remembering, so what I like to keep in mind, guys, I've done really nice fine highlights today. As you can see, Tilly's were a little bit larger last time, but I want to soften up that root. And I know, because I have in my mind, that on these packets here, my weave started right on the edge of that section. So there is a weave right next to here. So as I'm weaving my new section, I feel like I've said weave so many times, I'm not going to get a large chunk here where I've done two next to each other. It's really important to have in mind where you worked within your other sections. So I like to pull my hair out. And like I said last week, guys, I steady with my little finger against the head. I put my comb in and I very, very slightly move it. I'm moving the hair a tiny, tiny amount, and I'm moving my comb a tiny amount, just stopping so there's one weave left out right next to the last section. And then you can see it's a really fine, really soft, even weave through there. I've counted my weaves as I've gone through as well. So I know in the back I have 8, through the side here I have 6. So now when I'm thinking about the width of here, if I look here, I have 8 again, because it's about the same as the packet in the back. This way I know I'm going to stay even all the way throughout. So again, I pull that hair down, I place my finger at top. I'm going with my high lift tint now. In Davinaise we call these an extra lift. These are your 12 series. If you mix them with your 40 volume, you have a 12. If you mix them with your 30, you have an 11. The new Vibrochrome series doesn't include an 11, and that's because we can use our 12 in the same way, just with our 30 volume instead. So I close that foil, I put my hand underneath, and then I fold to the shape and the size of the section. So again, here guys, I've got a weave right on the edge of this foil, so I need to make sure when I start weaving here, I leave enough space that isn't a weave there. Again, I don't want a chunky one.
So you're not doing
Exactly, so you don't get a double weave. Yeah, exactly, and get a big one there. And then it's really important here as well, guys, that you start right on the hairline. If you can see that, Andy. So I'm picking up that hair right at the front there. We need to remember that highlights are an effect to make you look like you've gone on holiday, like you've been sitting in the sun, you've had your hair tied up. So these bits at the front are really important that they're pulled back, like Tilly's been sitting with her hair in a ponytail and all the sun's bleached that hairline out there. So I'm going to pop that into my foil. Oh yes, go for it, Sam.
Does the colour not move when you fold the foils like that?
I find no, but that's because I've practiced and practiced and practiced. To begin with, it can do, but let me show you guys. If I pull my foil out down like here right now, and I've just pulled that right away from the root, it happens, and it can happen as you're folding. I put my comb in underneath, I lift that hair up, I can put my foil back in there, then I can pull down with this hair, pull up, and slip that back in there. Hold again, and then just stick it back down with a little bit of colour. So it's right up there, right up to the root, and fold it up. If it slips while I'm putting my foil in, again, I'll pull up, pull up with the foil, down with the hair, and then again do the same thing with my brush. So very slightly just pull that hair down and stick it back to the foil again. And what I do find, guys, is when I'm teaching people to do highlights, I taught some of my team yesterday, very proud of them, they did some amazing work. What I do tell them to do is to get their foils to begin with, and just with them, pick one up, picked up 3 there. A slight bend in the middle, match up the lines, bend it in the middle, and then you can have all of your foils in a pile with a ready-made fold, so it's a lot easier to shut that when you come to put your hair in there.
I have another question for you. Maddie, when would you place the foils diagonally versus horizontally?
That is an excellent question. Thank you very much for your question. Who's that from, Sam?
It's from Amber Keane.
Thanks, Amber. So, Amber, when I would place my foils diagonally is when I'm tending to work with a bit more of a slicing section. You can see on Tilly's hair today I am doing super fine highlights. I want to blend in a little bit where they're slightly chunkier underneath while keeping her really, really blonde. So when I'm working with a slicing technique and I'm working with a little bit of a heavier effect or a foil effect, then I will go at a diagonal so they all lie in a nice repetition together instead of right on top of each other. Oh, sorry, Andy. Big shoulders.
Matt, do you mind if I can just...
Of course, please do. Yeah, please do.
Just because I'm moving through my shape now. So, while Maddie's been sharing with you her highlighting method, I've pre-cut quite a lot of the scissors comb on this side. What I'll do, when I'm doing the same on the other side, I'll break it down into lots of tips for you on how to control and get really beautiful scissors comb. But now I'm moving on to my second zone, which is basically going to be the back of the head. From the previous haircut that Sam had, she had lots of lines cut into her haircut, and as the lines grow out, what you tend to get is an uneven growth. So what I want to try to do is get a nice smooth finish to it. So I'm going to be working vertical sections on the shape, okay? And as you can see, my disconnection runs from the top all the way through to the opposite side. I'm going to work vertical sections with a round cutting line, trying to basically flatten the shape to make sure that the shape is clean and smooth. Now the key to this is to understand flexibility of the skin and also to understand the grooming process. So in this scenario, my number system will be 1, section 1. 1 is going to go to 2, 2 is going to go to 3, 3 is going to go to 4, which means in effect I'm working on the base. Now, the best way to control this is to do with your grooming. So for example, if my guide is moving in this direction, before I cut the hair, my last version of grooming should be moving the guide to the hair that I'm introducing, not this. Because the problem is people do this, and they end up pulling 2 to 1 rather than 1 to 2, which means they get gradually longer and they're not quite sure why. Another little tip I'm going to give you is head position. At the moment, Sam's head is upright. Now, the problem with Sam's head being upright is my back has to compensate for that angle. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to tilt the head down slightly, that way my back straightens up, my posture straightens up, and I'm able to literally have the same angle, but I'm able to protect myself as a stylist. That's a really important thing to understand how to manipulate the head and move the head around. Okay? Tonight, guys, on live camera, we've got Sam in the background. Sam will be basically communicating with us any questions that you might have. Please, please, please feel free to ask any questions you want. For those of you who've never met Sam before, Sam is the sound director for Enna, which is our consumer brand. But Sam is also, correct? Sam is also, he's also on a journey to become an Allilon educator, because Sam is an amazing hair cutter. And just keep an eye open, because you'll see him coming to a place near you soon. That'll be Sam. Okay, so I'm going to work vertical sections, work on the base to this area here, where the parting stops, and then I'm going to change my technique, okay? Good. Sammy, if any of the guys ask any questions, feel free to let us know. Guys, any questions you do want to ask, one of the things that I've found doing these Facebook Lives is that sometimes people are a little bit embarrassed to ask questions live, and then when we come offline, people start messaging me privately on Facebook asking me different questions, which is absolutely fine. But if you want to ask a question, please don't be shy, because the chances are somebody else watching the video is probably thinking the same thing and is probably feeling the same way as you. So don't be scared to ask anything you need to any information that you want to inquire about.
Well, so far we've just got loads and loads and loads of hellos.
Oh, bless you. Hello, everybody. Well, what's really nice, if I'm honest, with these Facebook Lives, and I'm pretty sure Madeline will agree with me. It's been something that I look forward to every week. Like, I look forward to Tuesday night, spending time with you guys. Next week we've got an incredible evening planned for you. What I'll do is I'll talk a lot more about that towards the end of the demonstration. If I go back to Madeline, and Madeline can share with you what she's working on now. Madeline, you know what you're working on now in regards to highlighting?
Yeah.
Last week we had a question from somebody. It was from a guy called Peter, who was basically asking us about whether or not highlighting is an old technique or a technique that isn't necessarily relevant nowadays. And you mentioned that in your opinion, it is a relevant technique and it is an important technique. Percentage-wise of customers nowadays, you know, obviously you've got the fantastic option of using flamboyage. You know, you've got lots of different options, balayage techniques and all these different things.
Yeah.
How common are highlights still?
I think that when you look at the numbers, actually I was really intrigued to look at this. So we have directors meetings and we look at the numbers of what's happening in the salon. We see our colour numbers, our gents, our females, and I think that our highlighting is still 30% of our colour business. And if you think that's including toners, treatments, everything in between, I can honestly say that when I'm in a salon on a Saturday, at least 70% of my column is highlights. I do so many of them, and I think
Really?
so many, honestly, on a Saturday, it's unbelievable. And yeah, balayage is becoming a lot more popular, but what I'm finding now is my clients that tried balayage when it was first emerging on the scene and seen as a relevant technique, and now going back to a more highlighted look, especially, it's not warm here, but the sun is starting to come out, we're heading into spring, and in the last few weeks I've had an awful lot of clients reverting back to highlights. But I think it's a technique. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen our looks from the British Hairdressing Awards last year, but my main technique within my panels on there was a highlighting technique. It was just using creative colour, using the pure colour from Davinair's and other colours to create this amazing mixture of tones in there. It's something that I really enjoy as well, to be honest, Johnny.
You know, it's funny you mentioned the awards. Obviously, you were very, we were very lucky. You were nominated for Colourist of the Year in the UK. But something that I think would be good for the audience to know. Before I made a reference to our friends over here from Canada, and for those of you who don't know, one of these good-looking fellows is Daniel, and Daniel is, first of all, he's a friend, but aside from friendship, he's probably one of the most, if not the most accoladed hairdresser in Canada. You've won the NAHA how many times? A few times now. a few times now. He's actually in the Hall of Fame, and I'm honoured to have him here with us, with obviously our other friends. You know, in regards to competition work, just a question for you.
Yeah.
Obviously, we entered the competition last year.
Okay.
We did quite well. Obviously, you do that a lot, or you used to do that a lot. Now you focus mainly on your team.
Yeah.
What advice would you give the people who are watching today in regards to entering awards or being trying to achieve maybe even a tiny bit of what you've achieved in your career?
Thank you, Johnny. Thank you.
Do you want to say what you are, where you were, the company?
I'm the co-owner of Pure Salon in Montreal, so it's probably the most team get the most important thing in NAS. And for me, NAS is a big thing to go, but in the same time is you have to put your ego on the table and just be yours. If you do something just to make nice for the competition, and if it's not you, this is for nothing. So you have to be yourself, do your work the best you can, and not to be nice with the judge, but just for you. And at the end, if you got the prize, this is fantastic.
So make work that represents you, basically.
Exactly. This is the most important thing. Just because if you do something just to be nice with the judge and it's not you, so it's nothing to do with that. So I think it's really important. And I have my partner Anna Pachito. She got probably 2 or 3 times the master hairdresser of the years, and she's the amazing hairdresser, and she's doing like always the best, and she's fantastic. But she's real. It's nothing to be nice with the judge. Okay.
Do you want to introduce your friends, what they do,
Yeah.
where they work?
This is my best friend Jack. He's my grandfather in the industry. Jack was you're in industry for a long time?
Certainly 50 years.
50 years. So he was my idol at that time. He's still my idol, but he was fantastic cutter. He was the first hairdresser from Montreal who came in London a long time ago. It was by ship, right?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
And this is José. She's the best friend of Jacques and a really good friend of me. She's a fantastic educator in Quebec City. She's with me every time in London for 30 years now. So we are really lucky to be together.
It's a pleasure having you, my friend. An absolute pleasure having you.
And this is the guy for the money. Lucas. He's a really good friend too, and he's the best friend to have like the straight answer when you ask something for the business. And
Like a business advisor, basically.
yeah, this is really practical, believe me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Okay, so while we've been meeting the team and our guests today, I've basically been working vertical sections with a round cutting line, and I'm stopping at this area here, okay? I'm now going to move through to the other side, section off in the similar way, and I'm going to go through all my scissor over comb tips. I know that somebody asked a few questions while the guys have been speaking. Sam, would you mind referring to the questions so I'm clear?
We've got 2 questions regarding the number system.
Okay.
Okay, so the first guy, George.
Hi, George.
Tratrupoulos.
George, that said the other day.
Yes. Or Yorgos.
Yeah.
Greek.
Charlie.
No, different one. Different George.
Can you?
Oh, sorry.
Anyway. Can you explain to me the number system and what exactly you wanted to say for the word grooming?
Okay, so the word grooming basically in English, it means the principles of combing and getting the hair that's irrelevant, the hair that you're not working on. It has to go out the way. You can't be having it in the way. So the idea of grooming is that basically once you've taken your section, you groom the excess hair, the hair that you're not cutting, you groom that out of the way really well. So if you notice, I'm not using any clips. I don't want to use any clips on my shape, okay? And the reason I don't want to use clips is because I don't want to mark the hair, and it's not necessary. As long as I groom effectively, I won't have to use clips, because grooming is, in effect, the best way to work mechanically, technically through your shape.
The next question regarding the number system is for Maria.
Hi, Maria.
I'm not going to mispronounce the name, so I'm just going to stick with Maria.
Okay.
She says, Johnny, do you cut 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3?
So it's 1, 1 to 2. Remember, number 1 is always your very first section. Okay? So it was 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and so forth. So the guide was moving, whereas the hair that I was introducing was basically coming straight out from the base. Hence my horizontal shape was round, due to the fact that I was working on the base, and my vertical shape was round, due to the fact that my cutting line was round. If it's not very clear, I'll gladly go through it again, and I'll gladly show you.
George says thank you.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Personal question, could you explain your sectioning decision?
Good. Okay, so now, in this scenario, I'm going to section off in the same manner. So my disconnection on top, in effect, is quite a high, kind of a horseshoe area of disconnection, but it's quite up high past the roundness of the head. The reason for that is because I want to really try and flatten the shape, because Sam's got really, really, really dense hair. And she's also got, if she doesn't mind me saying on camera, she's got a very unusual head shape, lots and lots of protrusions and areas that basically indentation. So I'm really conscious of the lengths that I'm choosing. I've been cutting Sam's hair for a long time, so I've fallen into a few traps in the past before. So on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors over, come a little bit further back. So I'm going to come to behind the ear in this scenario, okay? Actually, no, I'm not, because that's where the bones are. Actually, no, I am, because I want to shaft the tattoo. So I'm actually going to go quite short through this side, okay? I'm going to take it all the way down, and again, using the same words as before, I'm going to groom really, really well the excess hair, because I don't want to interrupt this hair here.
So, how much of your haircut was
Pre-planned?
and how much is decided
What a good
when
question.
you approach? Because the people at home might think that every haircut you approach has to be planned out, but that's not necessarily the case.
Is that your question or their question?
That's my question.
Oh, cool. Well, so basically, before I answer that question, I'm going to go back to my comb. Let me talk to you about the combs. Basically, the wider the comb, the more security you have over the length that you're choosing. So the shorter you go, or the shorter you aim your scissors, so the higher up the comb you go with your scissor, the shorter the hair is going to go. In this scenario, because I want to avoid it going too see-through, I'm going to use the base of the comb here. Literally, this is the thickest part. Now, the reason why a lot of people get lines in their work when they're scissor over combing is they're not being consistent in the placement of their scissors. So what they're doing is 1 minute they're cutting here, the next minute they're cutting here, the next minute they're up here, the next minute they're here. So that inconsistency creates lines within your shape and also affects the shading. Now, if you look carefully, I obviously want to avoid all of this. So how do I do that? And this is the thing that people find tricky. If you comb the hair this way, you're going to interfere the teeth with all the hair that you've basically groomed away. But if you basically groom the hair, put the comb in the other way, like this, put it in, move it across, and then just take it away using the base of the comb. Put it in, secure it, and what's happening is, I'm guaranteeing that length. Put it in, secure it. Once I get at least half a centimetre of distance there, I can then come in this way and work my scissor over comb as normal. Now, I'm going to give you some scissor over comb tips to help you. Thank you, Andy. I'm going to give you some scissors overcomb tips to help you. If you want to write this down, or you could, because it's recorded obviously, you could just play it back. So scissors overcomb, try and work in columns. So as you can see right now, I'm working a column here, okay? Can you see these lines that I'm getting here? These lines basically is because my scissors aren't moving in conjunction with my comb. So move your scissors twice as fast as the comb. Really place your scissors there and really work on that line. Don't worry too much about the hair. As long as you're not catching it in your scissors, you're okay. Push the hair away every time so you can see your mechanics. Rest the comb in, push it in, take that little bit away. So work in columns, start from the ends and work all the way up. Do not move on to the next column till the first column is done correctly. Try and keep your scissor at the same point in the comb. If you want to, you could also do it like this. You could also start on the tips, so you go nice and short around the hairline, and then as you move into your shape, move to the base of the comb. That's something else you can do to try and control your scissor over comb. Your scissors should definitely move twice as fast as the comb. Another piece of advice would be, just get rid of the bulk. Just get rid of it. That way it's out of the way, and you're not worried about it, because we know we're going to be going short. So I'm not touching the hair with the head with the comb. I'm resting it off the head. Once the lengths are gone, then you just take it down and you move really quickly. And think about a clipper. A clipper, the blades are like this, really rapidly. So with my scissor and comb, I'm moving my scissors really rapidly, opening and closing them. And as I'm working above the roundness of the head, if I tilt the head towards me, then I'm now working on top of the head, and I'll find it easier to round the shape off. Now the question you asked me before, Sam, was how much of the haircut do I pre-plan and how much of it do I basically work off the cuff? Now the reality is, if we were doing a collection course, we would be obviously have a very, very specific message that we're trying to send. In this scenario, with you guys tonight, I'm just having a bit of fun. So I'm not really planning as such. I have certain restrictions that Sam has given me. So I know that she wants the sides to be very short. That's something that's really important to her for her professional dancing. So I know I'm going to go short on the sides. The back, I want to keep it reasonably long, again, because of my fixed analysis, which is the head shape. The head shape is quite aggressive, so I need to be really mindful of the length that I'm going. Another way you can scissor overcomb, guys, is scissor overcomb vertically like this. That way what you're doing is you're working against the grain. So always when you're scissor overcombing, always work against the grain. And in the front temple area, what you find is the hair doesn't grow down, it actually grows forward. So by scissor overcombing against the grain, I'm in effect lifting the hair off the head, and I'm able to really, really get into the root. Maddie, you know before when we were talking about highlighting and getting as close to the roots, what advice would you give the guys in regards to getting close to the roots when highlighting?
You know what, you put it back to me, and that is such amazing epic timing, you have no idea, because I just stopped to show you.
Because, Maddie, me and you, we are in sync. We're in sync.
So, Andy, if I can borrow you for just a second, please, I just want to show you guys something on this side. This is always the trick side, because, of course, our hairline is here and not here. So this is going to be the first weave. I'm right-handed. I'm not going to... Oh, that feels so weird. I'm not going to weave with my left hand this way. I'm going to go this way. So, again, I've clipped my hair up really tight. There's a lot of baby hairs in this area. But remember, guys, this is the temple area here. So this is one of the weakest areas just here. And this is right where Tilly would have her hair tied back in the sun. So it would be the blondest. So I pull my hair slightly to an angle towards where I want to go. Place my comb. And I weave through. And not forgetting, guys, that a lot of people have breakage here or shorter hair. And I tip my comb over and I'm passing it to this hand. So I've got right there, you can see right on the hairline. Tilly's quite light, so I don't know if you can see there's right coming right from the skin there. I pull my hair up and away. I place my foil in. I hold my thumb past my fingers, pull up, and at the same time pull down. And then, okay, then I'm gonna use my highlight or something like that. Pop that on. And then again, I'm pulling up towards the scalp, pulling down with my brush, And I'm just working, I don't know if you can see that guys, just to the edge of that fold. And because, like I said last week, I've got flat, oh, big fingers, flat this way, instead of triangular shape like I did that little diagram for you, we're going to get nice and close to the root area, and it will look like she has no root area at all, hopefully. Again, folding my foil up nice and tight. When I'm doing this, guys, in regards to that question earlier about them slipping, I also, as I'm folding it, I push very slightly with the foil upwards with my fingers, so it's right up at that root area. This will be my last section on here. And this is something, guys, that is really easy to do. But as you can see, Tilly, if I just turn your head that way a little bit, I've slightly missed my angle here. I've gone up very slightly because as a tendency, what we tend to do is scoop upwards like this. If you end up in a scenario here like this is my pre-lighten and my bleach that I'm going to end up on here. So I'm just going to neaten this area up, and then I'm going to include a small bit of this hair into that section, into my herringbone on top. That was my fault, I wasn't paying attention.
Can I bring the attention
Out of the way.
Oh, sorry.
No,
When you finish, man, I'll bring the attention to what we need to check on.
yeah, of
I've
course.
got a question for you, Maddie, as well.
Yeah.
When you're ready.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you have a fold underneath your foil, Maddie?
No, I have a fold on top of my foil. I am absolutely useless at using my pintail comb and putting them in with my comb, which I think is the question. My fold is on top because that is like a barrier to stop my bleach and my high lift leaking. And if you have a look at those foils on the back there, they've been in for nearly an hour now on a really low percentage. And as you can see, they're still really flat. They haven't bubbled up, they haven't expanded, because that's the non-volatile combination of the bleach and the high lift in there isn't going to expand, it's not going to leak out of our packets, and it's not going to give us any leaks or rabbits. Rabbits is a code that we use an awful lot to talk about leaks because it means that they've jumped out of the packet. If you say leaks or bleeds around a client, they can often panic quite a lot. They might think their head's bleeding or their colour's leaked all over and you've ruined it. So having a little code like that, frogs or rabbits or something, kangaroos even, something that's jumped out of the top of that foil, so your client doesn't really know what you're talking about and you don't panic them and you've got time to fix it.
Got some more questions, you ready?
Yeah.
I like this one, so I'm going to ask this one first.
Okay, go for it.
Do longer nails help?
No, I don't think they do. I'm going to be honest with you, I have a really bad compulsion for not only biting my nails for my skin, and if I don't have long nails, then I do it even worse. So that is the reason I have super long nails.
Okay, Gina Masanfi, sorry.
Hi, Gina.
She has 3 parts to this question. Maddie, do your highlight prices vary using different colours, some people with various head shapes and sizes, as well as hair density, or do you use mesh paper?
So we use foil or flamboyage within the salon. Flamboyage is a Davines tool that Angelo Seminara was involved in creating. I really love foil, traditional foils. I love the way they work, they bend, they're malleable, they're flexible, and I love the fact that once you've folded them, they stay there. We do have different pricing within the salon, but it depends on what sort of highlights the client's having done, so whether they're having a parting, a half head or a full head of highlights. It also depends on the length and the density of the hair. So our prices start at a certain point, and then we do tend to add if they are going to have any extra colour, if it's going to take us longer, if they have particularly dense or long hair, and also if they're having anything like an Olaplex or a rebonder added into that solution as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Just before you go back to Johnny there, Andy, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to work on my herringbone section at the front here. I don't know if you can see it there in the mirror now, but here. I don't know. This is the angle I'm going to work at here, guys, because if you look at Tilly's hairline, avoiding this baby hair, which I am going to put in a foil, actually, even if I comb it up, this is giving me the indication of the angle that I'm going to go at. I know I had a question earlier about working at an angle. When I come to the top, I am going to be working at an angle until I reach here, just so when the hair falls down, we end up with both combinations of the colours running through and not ending up on a bleach or a high lift right on the parting there. Also make sure our parting's really soft, so she can go 8 to 12 weeks without having her regrowth done. I'm going to swap my bleach around as well. I'm going to go up to a 20 volume solution at the top here. Just in the interest of time, do that quite a lot in the salon. We don't use any heat in the salon, so that we're not waiting a very long time for the front if the back's ready. Thank you. Can I have my glamorous assistant, Alex? Will you do my glamorous assistant?
Okay, so while Maddie's been talking to you, I've basically been scissor over combing my technique. When you're putting the basic scissor over comb in, my advice is get it in quite quickly, and then once you've got it in, spend some time, take your time, don't rush it, and make sure you get all the little nitpitty bits, all the little 1 or 2 little hairs that go stray. Make sure you catch them and be really consistent in the speed of your movement. Keep moving, utilize the light really well, so manipulate the chair. That way you've got direct light onto the scissor over comb. You can really see your shape. Look at the silhouette. Okay, a good thing to do is also you could use a white background. So can I grab a towel please, Alex? Or if you look, stand behind me, Andy, you'll be able to see better. So what you can do, if you stand behind me, if you look using my top, I can actually use my top to see and check the silhouette of the haircut to make sure it's a fluid shape. And if you can't, let's say the hair was dark, you can use a white towel to do the same thing. So you do this to be able to see the silhouette of the scissor over comb. So by using a background, be it a white one or a black one, depending on the hair colour, you can obviously make it a lot more obvious. If the hair was dark, like black hair, you'd use a white towel or white tissue of some kind, or a white top, similar to if you were cutting a natural afro. So I know that there's a question on clipper work or something, isn't there, Sam?
Yes, the question was, would you do this with clippers?
Okay, so the question is, would I? The answer is no. Could I? The answer is yes. The reason I wouldn't is because with clipper, for those of you who maybe use clipper work a lot, clippers are incredible tools. The negative to them, because any tool has a positive and a negative, the negative to using a clipper is a lot of the times you're following the contour of the head. And in some scenarios, not all scenarios, in some scenarios, you end up showing a lot of imperfections of the head shape when you're using clippers because you're following the contour of the head so much. In this scenario, it wouldn't be a problem because I am actually following the head shape, so it wouldn't be an issue. But for example, if I was cutting the back of this scissor over comb, there's no way I'd use a clipper, just because I'd end up showing off everything that's imperfect.
We have some praise if you'd like to hear it.
Yeah, why not?
I thought I'd just throw this in.
Why not?
Rick Roberts Salons
Hi,
says,
Rick.
This is getting like a series I have to watch every week. Great in super inspirational guys. Much love, Rick Roberts.
Oh, that's very sweet. It's very kind. Well, honestly, we really enjoy doing it, and we've been talking about our unplugged sessions quite a lot. And I'd like to talk to you now about next week. Next week is going to be an incredible week, and I would really, really love for you guys to engage next week as much as you can. Next week we have a guest coming. We're going to be having lots of different guests. The next time Daniel's in London, when I know about it, I'm going to get Daniel to do a haircut for you, because trust me, you'll love it. Next week we're going to have a young lady called Nikki Pope, okay? And it's going to be an up close and personal with Nikki Pope. Nikki Pope is basically the UK editor of the Tribute magazine, which is probably, obviously down to everyone's opinion, in my opinion, it's probably one of the best magazines in the industry. And I'm sure anybody who knows, anybody who really understands the industry, there's 5 or 6 really key magazines that have a huge influence, and Tribute is definitely one of the top 3 in my opinion. And Nikki Pope is also a friend of ours, which is great, and she has been willing to come and spend the night with us. So next week we're going to be kicking off with Nikki Pope, and I really, really would love for you guys to have questions for Nikki in relations to, it could be anything. Anything to do with magazine work, session work, what people look for. I don't want to put ideas in your mind, I want you to think about it yourselves. But you've got an opportunity to speak to somebody who makes decisions, somebody who actually decides what you read. So, I don't know. Have a good think. It'll be an evening with Nikki Pope. Please, please, please start planning ideas in your mind of what you'd like to ask her. And I look forward to, me personally, I'm really looking forward to it. Right, so what I'm going to do now, I've obviously worked all the way around to this area here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to continue working that all the way under this connection, and then I'm going to start to use a little bit of over direction to maintain a bit more weight on this side. After I do that, I'm going to blow dry the underneath, and I'm going to cut all my exterior shape in to make it really graphic. Once I start cutting my outside shape, my exterior shape, the haircut will just go boom, and it will jump out at you. Then I'll basically work the top with you, and I'll do little bits of disconnection, little bits of different lengths and shapes for you to play with. So from this area here, I'm going to continue working vertical sections, but I'm going to change. My number system is going to change now. So far, I've been 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. So I'm working on the base, creating a round shape horizontally. What I'm going to do now that I'm here, I'm going to start this as number 1 again in my mind. So this is now number 1, and I'm going to go 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3. So I'm going to gradually increase my length, compensating for the fact the head's rounding off. And then when I get to probably, I think that's maybe about section 3 or section 4, I'm going to over direct everything. So it's going to be 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 2, 4 to 3, 5 to 3, 6 to 3, 7 to 3, 8 to 3, 9 to 3. So I'm going to get much, much heavier, a lot quicker. Okay? Again, really clean grooming, very important, very, very important. It's the one thing we focus on any primary shapes course, with any hairdresser that does any kind of course with us. We discuss it every week. Primary shapes is the fundamental course that you have to do with Allilon before you do any education with Allilon. It's very, very, very important. It's something that I'm really proud of in regards to the course, and it really does make a difference. It really, really does. I promise you, if you try it, it will just change the way you look and think about geometry and shape. So, section 2 is going to go to section 1. Comb it once, cut it once, move on. Again, be mindful of the tension here. Look, the tension in my fingers changes here, so I'm going round, but I'm actually going slightly square at the exterior shape. And the reason for that is to flatten the interior shape, but maintain an element of weight. That way, after when I put my outlines in, it will look very dense and very strong. You know, I really want this to visually look like impactful. Very, very important.
We had a question earlier about zone placement.
Okay.
To answer it. There's a question asking how you decided on the placement of your horseshoe.
Okay, good question. Who was that from?
Sorry.
Sorry, don't worry. So, whoever asked the question, thank you very much for asking the question. I appreciate it. So, the width of the zone, the size of the zone, the placement of the zone, the number of zones, all these kind of factors play a big part to when you're using this connection. One of the things that I'm conscious of is also the choice of length within each zone. There's basically, we tend to describe it as having 5 major decision-making processes to decide on this connection. Size of the zone, shape of the zone, placement of the zone, number of the zone, choice of length within each zone. So in this scenario, because I want to really flatten the shape through quite a bit, my disconnection is quite narrow. So I'm cutting a lot of the majority of the hair down short to flatten the shape. That's really important for me. Okay? I'm going to talk and work at the same time. That way I can speed up a little bit. So in this scenario, it's quite a narrow area of disconnection because I don't want to keep a lot of weight underneath. I want the underneath to be quite flat and quite fitted. Also, another thing you need to think about is the reason why I've gone for a horseshoe section rather than a square section or a square zone or a triangular zone is by working with more of a rounder shape, the amount of hair that sits down on top after is more even and more consistent. If I have a point, I'll have like an area, just one area of specific length. Whereas if it's more of a circular piece of disconnection, the amount of hair that falls down is more even and more consistent. I hope that answers your question.
This isn't a question, but I don't know if you covered it. I was going to ask why you chose this number system for this side and didn't make it symmetrical.
Okay, good question. So basically on this side now, as you can see, I'm over-directing everything to section 3. And the reason for that is because I want this side to be much more denser in order for me to make this side more graphic in regards to my outline and the weight distribution. I don't want it to be a shape which is basically formed on symmetry. I want it to feel asymmetric. I want it to have a point of interest. And what's really important to me is that it still looks quite thick. I don't want it to look too fine. So now that I've cut that down. Now what's really important when you're cutting hair down, especially when you're going from long to short, the hair kind of almost goes into like a shock factor. When you cut the hair down short, it kind of springs and reacts. So a good thing to do is with the day-day, okay, just basically dampen the hair down after you've cut it and then groom it into place while you work. Because what happens is the heat from the head is constantly coming away. So the root of the hair is drying. The root is what you need to control in order for the hair to sit. If the root is drying, sticking up without any control, no matter how much you try and blow dry, it's always going to keep reacting because the root is the area which gives you the control. So when you've cut it, comb it down, wet it, comb it down, and as the head releases its natural heat, what's going to happen is the shape will start to basically form itself and make it very easy to blow dry after. I'm going to blow dry the hair now. I'm going to use the Love Smooth, which is basically a beautiful cream. This is very, very good for moisture, okay? And what you do is you get it, rub it in your hands, back and front, really get it between your fingers, okay? And then work it through the hair. I'm going to dry all of the hair, including the hair on top, okay? And the reason for that is because the top I'm going to cut it dry. I'm going to make it nice and easy for me. And I'm going to basically play with my length through the top. I definitely need to keep some length in the front. That's something that Sam needs. But as an idea, this will hydrate the hair. The Love Smooth hydrates the hair because it's a water-based product. But it also gives the hair nice control, so I can get it nice and smooth. So don't be scared to use it, especially if the hair is slightly dehydrated. I know that Sam's had many colours on her hair before. Maddie did an amazing colour for me, obviously, as you can see. Do you want to talk about this colour, Maddie, and explain what you did?
So Sam has been modelling for us for about 5 years now. Like 4 or 5 years. And Sam has had pretty much every colour under the sun. I think this is the first time we've been this copper though. So when she came in today, Johnny asked if we could do something a bit more vibrant, a bit more fun, because it was basically a 414, a 4 ash copper all over, with a little panel that we've run through before based on our last collection, the change collection, that had been covered over. So what we did was we pre-lightened that using the mask bleach powder, the 20 volume. And then I let that on the little ends, and then I multiplied that onto the root with a little bit of shampoo, just to lift up that natural base a little bit. Then I toned it using equal parts of 7.4 and 5.4. I think that was 20 of each, and then 10 grams of 8.44. So lots of copper, a level 5 copper, a level 7 copper, and then a level 8 double copper, which is super orange, but it's given us this really gorgeous, it's almost like an amber sort of tone, I think, on there. It's lovely. Something that I really wanted to talk to you about today, guys, when you're highlighting, is your body posture and your knees. So while Johnny's blow drying, I wanted to tell you how important it is, guys, that we keep our knees soft when we're highlighting. So I always keep a little bend in my knees. I try and keep my back as upright and as straight as possible, because what's important for me is I started really, really young and I want to keep on going forever and ever. So So we keep a little bit of a bend in the knees, straight back, and I always use my core muscles when I'm working to hold me up straight. And I'm also not scared to move my client's head, because they're going to stay there for a few minutes, you're going to stay here for the rest of your life. So it's really important that we use our core muscles, our knees and our backs properly when we're highlighting, so we don't end up with any aches or pains or any ailments when we get a little bit older.
Okay, so I'm using a wrap drying technique. I've also got a nozzle on the hairdryer. Now, you don't need to use a nozzle when you wrap dry. If I'm honest, 99% of the time, I wouldn't use a nozzle because I want the hair to circulate. I need the hair to circulate. But at the beginning, on the shorter hair, I'm using a nozzle just to help me control the movement of the hair and get the hair sitting nice and smooth. Keep the hair dry moving, keep the hair dry facing down the hair at all times, and don't be scared to rotate the hair around the head. So imagine you've got a clock on the head, okay? 12 o'clock is the fringe, 6 o'clock is the back. I'm going to go from 12 through to 6, so 12 to 3, 12 to 9 to 6, 12 to 3 to 6, and then back around. So I'm basically, in effect, stretching the hair around the head, applying as much heat as I can. Normally I'd have the hair dry a lot more powerful to get through a lot quicker, but obviously I need you to be able to hear what I'm saying. And constantly keep the hair dry moving. Try not to keep the hair dry still. Obviously you don't want to burn the customer, number one, but also you want to allow the hair to cool down, because it's the cooling process that sets the hair, not the heat that sets the hair. Samuel, have you got any questions that you're waiting for?
No, I was going to play devil's advocate, just ask the questions as we go.
Okay, no problem.
Jonathan last week mentioned that when he's wrap drying, he's only looking at the root and the ends. When you approach your wrap dry, are you using the same method, or do you use a different method you're using?
So when you wrap dry, the key is to understand the root, because the root will dictate how the hair is sitting. So in my scenario, I'm focused mainly on the root. Once the root is dry, then I focus on the mid-length and ends, because the root will determine how the hair sits. Okay? Don't worry about the ends. You can see the ends are looking really fluffy. Don't worry about that, because you're going to manipulate that. Okay? You want to focus on the root, because the root will help you control where the haircut sits, the placement of the hair. Ideally, what you want is for the hair to collapse. A good way of thinking about that, I've got a little story for you that you can share with people to help you understand it. Try and imagine a really big field, okay? And right in the middle of the field there's this flower sticking up like this, okay? And the wind is blowing the flower from side to side, like this, back and forward constantly. After a while, the root of the flower just goes, oh, I can't take this anymore, and it collapses like that. The stem stays straight, but the root collapses. And it works the same principle when you're wrap drying. By brushing and wrapping the hair from side to side and applying your heat, after a period of time, the root just goes, oh, and it just collapses on you. And that's the key to making the shape work properly. And for young hairdressers, that's a really good, for those of you who are teachers out there, it's a very good way of making it visual for people to understand, especially young hairdressers. Okay? I'm going to speed this up a little bit, just so that I can stop the blow drying process. So I'll focus mainly on the roots, okay? Then I can focus on the ends. Really stretching the hair, and the more I wrap dry, the more shiny the hair will become. Now the good thing is, even though Sam's hair is a little bit dehydrated due to all the processing she's had over the years, she still has a very strong head of hair. And the hair itself is very thick and quite coarse. So I'm able to really get the best shine out of the hair by wrapping it really well and focusing my airflow. Now when you wrap dry, a lot of people make the mistake of doing this. They get the brush and they do that. Now the problem with that is you're encouraging the end to flip. So what you need to do is keep the teeth on the brush constantly on the scalp. Don't lift it. And once you think you've finished your wrap drying, just go over it one more time, and the more you wrap dry, the shinier and more polished the hair will become. The only other thing I would say to you is try not to do this. A lot of people when they wrap dry, they do this. And then you just whack the person with the brush, thinking they're wrap drying it. Try and imagine as if the brush is just kind of hugging the head and kind of rubbing the head. Think of it more of a massage rather than a beating.
For people at home or young stylists who have heard of wrap drying or think they understand it, what is the most common mistake they would make, and why? What are the best tips you give people who are just beginning to learn how to wrap dry and might be struggling in the salon? What kind of things are easy for them to remember to help them get a smooth finish?
Okay, so the first one is obviously select the right brush. For wrap drying, you're looking at either a vest brush or a Denman brush, something which basically, you don't want it too big. For example, a paddle brush is better for long hair. I wouldn't necessarily wrap dry. I'm not saying you can't. One of our best educators, Johan, who I think is an incredible hairdresser, he only ever, no matter what he's doing, he only uses the paddle brush. That's just his thing. So you can wrap dry with the paddle brush. I wouldn't choose to. I'd probably use a vest brush, which is basically half of a round brush. Okay, you can see it's half of a round brush. So I get a bit of a bend to it, which I quite like. Or you can use a Denman brush, which gives you a lot more tension. So the brush is very important, number one. The second thing you need to be mindful of is the cooling and the heating process. So it's all very well heating the hair up with the hairdryer, but how you leave it to cool down is how the hair will sit and how it will move and position itself. So stretch the hair really well, dry it, and keep going until it's literally 100% dry. Don't leave it a little bit damp, otherwise the bend will still be in the hair. Now I'm not going to iron yet, I'm going to iron after because I'm going to cut it first. But for now I'm going to start to play with my outlines. So what I'm going to do, so the first thing I'm going to do is I want to stand back. So I stand back, I look at my shape from a distance, I try and understand visually what shape that I want to create, okay? Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the chair around, I'm going to use the mirror, and I'm going to have a bit of fun now with my outlines, okay? What I'm going to do, I'm going to start by basically taking, if you look in the mirror, Andy,
You do with your eyes closed.
yeah, I'm going to start basically by carving a shape in. I'm going to go quite high up into the shape now, look. I'm going to go quite high up into the shape, and I'm going to bevel it around like this. Okay? That's my first thing I'm going to do. And I'm not worried about how clean it is, I'm worried more about the angle. And by using the mirror and looking in the mirror when you're doing that, what you're able to do is visualize where you're going with the shape. So you literally position the blade and work up and round. Get the shape in. Okay? Now on the other side, I'm going to play a bit more with this one. Okay? So on this side, I'm going to come from the tattoo. So can you see the tattoo that I've got? I'm actually going to use that as a focal point. Okay? So I'm going to comb the hair down. This is really important. You comb the hair down. And then from here, I'm then going to look at my other hand. My other hand's on the chair. Okay? And I'm going to position the blade. And I'm going to move the chair around like this. I'm going to constantly move the chair around. And I'm going to work back into my shape. Comb the hair away. Don't worry about the cleanliness. That's not what I'm looking for now. I'm looking more at the shape and the fluidity of it. By doing this, I now make the tattoo a focal point. When you look at her face, when you look at the back of her head, this is going to become a really good focal point to focus on. Then, stand in front, and then manipulate. So I want to go 50-50, so I'm going to come across quite square, and I'm going to stop halfway. So what's going to happen is it's going to drop into a different shape. So I've got one shape that curves around, one shape that curves that way. And then once I start cleaning all this up, it will just start to pop on me. So don't worry about how clean it is at the beginning. Worry about the shape that you want to create first. Once you've got the angles right and the shapes right, then start to go in and, you know, tick, 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 and make it super, super clean. So now I can secure it with my comb and actually refine my line really well. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play. So I'm going to get my clipper. I'm going to take some of the hair away. And then on this side I'm going to get really clean. So I'm going to go in. And I'm going to get rid of all this. And what will happen is now, the focal point will basically be with the eye, will be the tattoo. So when you look at the side on this side profile now, this is what you're seeing. It's really kind of popped out. Now with the length, the choice of length, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gently, with the clipper, just grade the tip of the hair. Grade the surface a little bit. And what it does, it just takes that corner off it, and it helps it sit nice and smooth. So in this scenario, as you can see, I'm using a clipper. And what that does, it just changes the surface of the hair. Takes the corner off it and helps it sit smooth. Now when you're doing this, make sure your model or your client doesn't move. Otherwise you can create a massive hole in the haircut. Now on this side, I'm going to play with it a little bit differently. I'm actually going to do this. So if you come and watch this, Andy, I'm going to use the actual neck hair as a shape. So I'm going to literally come across that way. And I'm just going to see what it looks like. And I'm going to clean up around it. It might work. It might not work. We'll see. And if it doesn't, I'll change it. But my advice to you is don't be scared. Try never to be scared of trying something out. Even if it doesn't work, you can always change it. Do you know what I mean? Never be scared to just express yourself. Remember, it's only hair. It grows back. And play with it. Sometimes. Yeah. See, it doesn't work, so just get rid of it. Don't be scared to just play. Try things out. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I had a really interesting conversation today on the train coming into work. A very good friend of mine, she's basically a fashion textiles designer, and she uses, she basically draws and designs prints for different quite big companies in the UK. And we were talking on the train this morning about taste, about fashion, and it was really interesting actually, because she was saying to me, you know, how does fashion implicate, you know, hairdressing? How does that work? And we were talking about magazine work, we were talking about Unplugged, we were talking about Nikki Polk and so forth. And one of the things that I think is really important, which I'd like to share with you guys, is the fashion can be really inspirational. And the majority of our industry, all they do is focus on fashion. What's fashion doing now? What's London fashion? What's New York fashion? What's Paris fashion? And it's fantastic because you can get some really beautiful inspirations. But the problem with following fashion is that you're following. And that's what we need to try and change. We should be setting the trends. We should be expressing ourselves and leading rather than being led, and rather than following where do we get our inspirations from. There is nothing more inspirational than a 15-year-old boy who can play the drums better than anybody else who's been training for years, he's never been taught before. There's so much out there that's inspirational that we miss because we're so busy focused on one subject matter, which in this case could be fashion. Fashion's amazing because it's influential, and you've got some amazing designers who really play with shapes and geometry, but we should try, if we can, to not just follow fashion as the inspiration, because the problem with following fashion is that you're following, you're not leading it, you're not dictating, you're not setting trends, you're not breaking boundaries. And sometimes when we do work which is slightly more creative, if you do what people naturally see and always like, they're accepting it because they've seen it before. Whereas if you do things that sometimes may look ugly or may look a bit unusual, people don't quite get, it's because it's the first time they're seeing it. And that's how we challenge the work that we're doing. So my advice to you is just don't be scared, just express yourself. Just do, if you feel like doing it, do it. Even if it doesn't work, that's part of the learning process, that's part of the fun aspect of it. That's part of what will make you change the way people perceive stuff. Don't just keep doing what you know works, because all you're doing is reproducing what's already been produced. Whereas if you do something, or if we try to do things which challenge the eye, which the eye doesn't naturally accept, I personally feel that that's a really good way of us slowly shifting the balance of being leaders rather than followers fashion. Anyway, that's a discussion that I had this morning, which I thought I wanted to share with you guys tonight. Right.
I recall such respect.
Yeah? Cool.
Fist bump.
Fist bump. Right, so I'm going to work on my disconnection now, okay? I'm going to start the crown. I do want to keep an element of length, but the hair is very, very delicate at the moment. So I'm going to start the crown. I'm going to work vertical sections. I'm going to start by pivoting it first. So I'm using the sessibon, and I'm using the tight end of the comb. I'm going to comb the hair at once, cut it once. I'm going to get rid of a lot of the broken ends as much as I can. Now, the reason I'm not ironing it first is because if I iron it and cut it, the ends of the hair are going to be quite straight. I don't want it to look like a wedge. I want it to be able to move. Maddie, in regards to colour, because I mean you are quite fashion conscious as a person, but you also, I like to think, you tend to think, especially since you've joined Allilon, you tend to think a lot more now about the bigger world and what else we can draw inspiration from. When it comes to us choosing the collection colours, and obviously we work very closely, and not just me and you, but you and the team. But when you think about colour fashion and colour trends, how do you feel about colour trends?
To be honest, sounds really terrible, I try and ignore them as much as possible, because for me, it's the person sitting in the chair, or the artist that we're working on a collection for, or like you were saying, someone young that plays drums that's 15 that has taught themselves everything. And I'm really excited for you guys to see the next collection that we've been working on, because it's something that fascinates me, the inspiration for the colour that I created for it. But yeah, I think it's something I've actually always struggled with, that I am a die-hard fashion fan. I absolutely love watching all the videos from all the fashion weeks. But then at the same time, I myself, even though, yes, I do love certain trends, you can see I've got mad hair, I wear lipstick, I have tattoos, I have piercings, I do still quite like to be an individual. And I think as human beings, that's something that we all have. We're all unique. So I think to have a unique cut or colour, especially one that's been created for us, is so important and so special. Even a set of highlights. I mean, I've even adapted my completely classic technique here for Tilly to work on her head shape, the colour that she has at the moment, her natural base. I think it's all very, very personal. And that was a very good timing again there, Johnny, because I just wanted to show you here, Andy, what I've been working on. So I've been working through my herringbone section on the top here. I'm just working towards the back, and I'm just wanted to show you that with my foils here, I'm just starting to close them slightly differently. So you can see I'm starting to go at an angle at the shape and the size of the section. That's really important, because you don't want to get any drag on your outside highlights here. And you also don't want to have it so loose that if I need to rinse my back section, any water can get in here and it might make my highlights slip. So I go to the edge of my section and I fold it up. My comb is filthy on there. And then just as you can see here, guys, I'm working towards the back. So here I'm going to meet my last section. I'm going to work with my extra lift on the one I'm going to do now, and then I'm going to finish on my bleach, because what I want you to imagine, guys, when you're colouring hair, it's really important to try and imagine the shape and the natural fall afterwards. Because where those highlights fall, where your panel falls, where your area of disconnection falls, it's really important to remember where that hair is travelling to. This hair that I've sectioned now is not going to be a highlight like this on Tilly's hair unless we did some sort of mad styling with loads of hairspray. This hair is going to fall down like this at an angle, and that's super important. Softness and angles all the way through. So this one here is my extra lift. And then the last one I'm going to finish on my bleach, because you always try and start and end on your bleach when you're doing a highlight or your lightest colour, because like I said, that is where the client is going to be sitting in the sun. If you imagine on our last section here on our back square, that is right just above the crown where the hair tends to split, as you can see where my last one will go. This is where the hair's going to split, and this is where the hair's going to split. And it might sound mad to think that all three of those are going to be bleached there. But like I said, if you imagine the natural fall of this hair going backwards and this one going this way, it means that she has got that nice lightness across the top. And again, I'm not going stripy. I'm going really, really super fine with my highlights. I want them to be really nice and subtle. So you can see my weaves are tiny. If you feel like there's a little bit too much, take it away. It's from the other section. And really nice and even as well here, guys. And what I'm going to do, you can see there's a little bit of lightness here and then dark next to it. So I'm always going to run my colour over that, because I don't want any of the dark pieces running into the end of the highlights, because it might look like a little bit of a shadow halfway down the shaft. So again, I'll show you how I put my foils in again, guys. People are always asking me. I place the foil in underneath, pull the hair down. I use my finger to secure it. I let go. I stick my hair down so it's not going anywhere. I pull up with my foil, down with my brush very gently, and then I've got a reflection on this. I just want to come through just on those pieces that are a little bit more golden and a little bit darker, very, very gently. Flick the hair out the side of the foil, fold up. I'm pushing up with my foil, holding at the top, securing at the bottom, putting my comb underneath, tail across to the side, to the shape and size of my section. So that's my last one I've popped in there, guys. Again, for my client's comfortability and just so they can carry on reading or do whatever they want to do, I like to bend my foils up a little bit like that. So she's got a little bit of a hat. It also holds these wispy bits out of the way so she's not constantly fighting against them while she's looking at a phone or reading or anything like that. She's got a little hat there now, Tilly.
Question?
Yeah, of course.
This is from Amber Keane again.
Hi, Amber.
She would like to know this time, what helps you decide your section and weaving pattern, chunky versus slices versus fine?
So I like to work with highlights as fine as possible every time, because again, it's a sun-kissed look, like they've been on holiday, really nice and fine. I don't like to see any chunky big pieces. For me, that's really a completely different technique. It's almost going into creative there. What I like to think about is texture and density. Tilly's hair here is quite fine, but she's got lots of it. The previous highlights are a little bit thicker than I like to see them. I like the hair to look sun-kissed and golden. Again, not like they've been sitting in the sun. Sorry, not like they've been sitting in the salon. If I was going to do some slicing, sometimes if they have got a larger, chunkier highlight, it's nicer to do a slice so it blends a little bit more. Also, if they've got curly hair, slicing works really, really well. If you imagine on my hair, if I had lots of weaves, you can end up looking a little bit spaghetti-ish, because once the hair's curled around, if we have a slice that curls all the way inside of the curl instead of bits that curl, we don't want a plate of spaghetti. We want nice, enriched, highlighted curls running down. So I tend to use slices a little bit more with curly and thicker and textured hair, and then go for a highlighting technique when we've got finer, more natural, desired result, if you like.
So,
That answers your question.
Matt,
Yeah.
today, as we speak,
Yeah.
Pedro and Johan
I'm so
are actually
They're in Chile.
and they're actually launching and releasing for the first time our latest collection. So I think what we should do is actually let everybody know a little bit about the collection.
Hannah, I'm really excited.
Yes, I think you should, because
Pen's watching, by the way.
is it?
Hi, Pedro.
I hope the show went well, Penny. So Johan and Pedro are actually in Chile today, and they're releasing our latest collection. Our latest collection is called Wiggle. Okay? And the idea behind the collection, in fact, what I will do is I will talk to you a bit more about the inspiration behind it all. Now, with this particular collection, one of the major influencing people in this collection was actually Sam. Sam, after lots of brainstorming with different ideas, came up with a young story about a man called Alan Watts. Okay, Sam, do you want to talk to the guys a little bit about how you got the inspiration, what it was that you saw, and how the idea evolved?
Yes, I can. I can recite the passage, I think. I'm not sure I can recite the passage.
Do it. Do it. So what's the principles of wiggle?
I was going to talk about how I discovered it.
Okay.
I was in an arts institute in London called the ICA, and they have an introduction video when you go there. And this video discusses, it has a voiceover by this chap called Dr. Alan Watts, and he discusses humans and what makes humans humans versus nature. And his theory is, you can always tell if a human has been around because humans straighten things out. We put things in boxes, we put things in frames, we live in boxes, our roads are straight up of houses, everything is straight. That's how you can tell when you're human. It's been messing around with things. But nature itself, everything that nature is, clouds, humans, mountains, continents, they're all wiggles. And humans don't like wiggles because we can't work them out, so we try and straighten them. And that's what we do as hairdressers, we straighten out wiggles constantly. We're always working with wiggles. And we're just trying to make wiggles straight. And we think we can control them, and we might be in control for a short period of time, but as soon as the heat gets on there, or the water gets on there, or they wash it, or whatever happens, the wiggles take over. So our collection Wiggle, which is the illusion of control, is about humans controlling humans, basically. Humans are trying to control human wiggles.
And
that's what we're doing.
The basic principle is the battle between us trying to manage and control things that technically, if you left alone, we're actually doing our rights. So with my shape now, I'm going to basically gently point into the outline. So I'm using the tips of my scissors. Okay? And this way what happens is, it just softens the exterior shape a little bit and makes it look a little bit softer. Now what I'm going to do, so with my top zone, I work pivoting sections to here, and then I over-directed, so it was 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then everything back to 5. So this now is longer and heavier on this side. Now what I'm going to do with my internal shape here, I'm going to take this a lot shorter, okay, and go for a lot more texture, but keep all my length in the front fringe. So I'm going to flatten all this weight here. I'll show you how I'm going to do that now. I'm going to ignore the back zone, okay? I'm going to take a vertical section dead centre. Now the good thing about this is I'll be able to get rid of all these dry ends that you can see. I'm going to elevate the hair up, and I'm going to basically take the internal shape shorter, but I'm going to ignore the length from the crown. It's irrelevant, that length, okay? So in effect, I'm flattening the shape through, but keeping as much weight as I can in the centre. My sectioning pattern is going to pivot. That way I maintain weight on the exterior shape. I'm going to comb the hair up once and cut it. Now the key here is kokomo. Comb once, cut once, move on. If you have to cut the same piece of hair twice, it means you cut it wrong the first time. So it's really important that you understand choice of length. That's a really, really important factor. And it's really important that you understand the shape that you're trying to create. So in this scenario, I'm cutting a square shape from front to back, and I'm cutting a round shape from left to right. Combing the hair up, taking away that extra length.
Got a question.
Yep.
Johnny, this is from Amber again.
Hi Amber.
What helps you decide when to cut hair dry versus wet?
Good question, very good question. So there's pros and cons to both, okay? If you cut hair wet, you tend to be able to work cleaner much easier, and you tend to be able to see the bend in the hair, which is really, really important when you're working with hair. The negative to cutting wet hair is that sometimes you can't always see the natural fall of the hair because you can't really analyse the movement in regards to the root and things like that. So personally, I like to work dry. My basic shape I like to work wet, but then the majority of the shape after, once it's been dried, can really help me understand where the weight is sitting. Often, especially if you've got a lot of breakage in the hair, it's hard to know how dense the hair is when the hair is wet, because the hair sticks together, you know, and it has this sense of, you can't really understand how much hair you have to work with. But when it's dry, you can really see any breakage. So in my scenario, I can see the breakage really easily because it's dry. So I know what needs to come off, and I also know what needs to stay.
With that in mind, Manassi,
Okay?
would you point cut the top to remove density, or blood cut and then point cut?
Exactly, very good point. Thank you for your question, I appreciate it. Basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to club cut the shape first, get a nice clean shape, and then once it's clean, I'm then going to work through, and I'm going to use different types of freehand techniques. You're going to literally see that in about 2 minutes, not even that. I'm not just going to use pointing, I'm going to use different techniques. So watch what I'm going to do now. So I've kept all my length in the front, I've flattened my shape through, so now from the front, the shape is much more softer. Okay, now I'm going to comb the hair down like this. So it's all moving in the right direction. I'm going to get my scissors, and I'm going to basically work into the hair like this. And what that's going to do, is going to basically create a lot more texture in the hair. And I'm going directly into the hair, and what I'm doing in effect is just thinning it out. So I'm looking at the hairs moving, and I'm working into the hair like this. Now when you're doing this, it's really important to understand where the head starts and stops, that way you don't cut her or cut your consumer. And what that does, you can see what it's done, it's just giving it a little bit of freedom and a little bit of softness instantly. Because when you're pointing into it, if I can give you some tips on how to do that, if the hairs, you have to look at the root, but this hair's moving forward, these two hairs here, I don't know if you can see it, but it's actually breaking on me. So when I go into it, my blades have to be relative to where the hair's moving. So if you look at my shoulder, I'm dancing as I'm doing it. I'm wiggling. So it's really important that you go in the opposite direction to how the hair sits. So if the hair goes this way, you go upwards, and then you move it round. I'm going to avoid doing the fringe area, because I don't want any short hair around the fringe. And what you could do when you do this, is go like across, 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 across. Then get rid of all the excess, and this will give you that freedom to move. It's an amazing colour.
Thank you. I really like the way it's picked up over this pre-lighting section actually. I really like that.
Beautiful.
Do you like it, Sam? That's the important thing, do you like it?
Did you explain why I left the back? Why it's sectioned from the top like that?
No.
This section here, would you explain it?
Two areas?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I explained that the back area was cut using a completely different number system to the other side. So now guys, what I'm doing is I'm just going to use the mirror, and I'm working on my finishing touches. Now you can see how all the grains sit. That's really important to show off your technique. When you use the shine line, if you look at the line, look at the light, this is called a shine line, so forget my disconnection. My disconnection obviously sits on top of the short hair, so forget all that. You lift all that up. Now what you do is you look at all this hair here. Now if you use the shine line, so the shine line is basically where the light hits the hair. Now to see your technique, to make sure your technique is good, what you do is comb all the hair to the natural form, okay? Then with the shine line, so this is the shine line here, can you see that? Well, my shadow. What you do is you slowly tilt the head down, and the shine line moves down the head. And what you can see is the form of the shine line and how that shows off the haircut. Can you see it? If that shine line breaks, if that line there breaks, it means your technique's no good. Okay? So don't be scared to use your shine line. Your shine line tells you everything that your eyes don't want to tell you. Okay, good.
And can I quickly show you something of the rinsing highlights, please?
Just before you go, all I'm going to do is point into the top, okay? I'm just going to gently point into the top. If I quickly show you, there's one version of doing it, how to control your shape, and then you can jump across. I'm just going to point into the lengths to make them more pliable, make them maneuver better with product in it. So I comb the hair up, and I've already pre-pointed some of the top anyway, but just so I can show you, comb the hair up. You can see where I've pointed it previously, and just basically go with the tips of your fingers. And I don't want to go short. I'm not trying to change the shape. I'm just trying to change the density of the hair that's falling on top of the disconnection, on top of the shorter hair. Okay? Thank you, Matt. When you come back, I'll style it and I'll show you what I use to style it and how I've styled it. Okay?
What I wanted to show you guys with the technique that I was using with the folding the foils, thank you to our gorgeous assistant Yana for helping me rinse these highlights here. You can see how much I'm manipulating these foils here, guys. They're all the way backwards on their own. I can flip them down, I can flip them up. And because I've locked them in nice and tight with that folding, I'm not too worried about them going anywhere. It also means that when we're rinsing here, even if we clip, if I get a little bit of water along here, there's none going to go into those foils and disturb them. You can see they're all still where I wanted them. And they're not going to go anywhere. Tilly's nice and comfy at the back wash, so I'm going to leave her there for a minute. I'm just going to wait for those top two sections. And what we're going to do today, guys, obviously in the interest of time, processing time, blow dries and everything like that, I'm going to complete Tilly's colour, get that all processed, get it blow dried, and then we're going to get the very gorgeous Mr. Gilbert to help me take a little video and some photos just to show you the finished result, because otherwise I think Johnny will be waiting for me for quite a while.
So you wanted me to blow dry then?
Always, Dandy, always. Thank you.
So if you've got any last minute questions, I'm coming up to the end of my haircut, so feel free to drop them in now. Do me a favour, Alex, can I get your hair assistant hairspray, please? And also, can I also get the dust?
I think we need to make a little mention of this very special young man, Alex here, Johnny, for his incredible work on Sunday.
Why not?
I know that Alex is often here assisting us in these Facebook Lives. Not only is he amazing at cutting hair, but I think this weekend he did an absolutely incredible job. Alex did his advanced presentation, and I know definitely I was very, very proud to see his work here, so very well done, Alex.
Yeah, big time. Big time.
Thank you.
So Alex is now officially a stylist at Enna. Officially. So all I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm just going to weave my scissors in and out of the hair and just gently, gently slice through. I haven't got a technique as such. I'm just gently opening and closing the scissors and running it through the hair, and that way I'm getting this really irregular. I'm still keeping lengths to it, but it's really irregular. And that way when I style it, it'll be able to move in really unusual ways. Now, as I go into the hair, I've done all my mechanical technique. Now I'm just working very visually. I'm bending the hair around the blade, and I'm basically slicing the hair through. So put it in, bend the blade, and slice. And what it does, it almost twists the blade, it twists the hair into the blade, and you get this kind of, you get like almost like little strandy bits. And you can keep doing that, slicing and weaving and pointing, because the thing with Sam's hair is really dense, so if you don't do any kind of freehand techniques, it falls quite like a hat. So now I'm just personalising it. It's got the mechanical shape in there, I'm not worried about that. Now is more about actually having a bit of fun from a freehanding point of view. So get in there, like this, and then twist your elbow as you open and close. And what will happen is, the shorter hair pushes the longer hair into a different direction. in, twist and cut. And this just basically creates lots of texture in the hair. Okay, now get the hair dryer on it, get rid of all those little hairs. Get the root. I'm going to get some oil, a little bit of oil from down this, okay? Literally 2 pumps of that. Run it through the hair for the shine. And I'm going to try not to overstyle the hair, because I want the haircut to do the work for me. I'm going to get powder and put that in just at the roots. So the oil will give me the shine, the powder will give me the kind of dusty, fluffy effect. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to style the hair and then spray it into position with the hairspray. So I get the wide end of my comb, I groom the hair exactly how I want it to look. Now notice that my external shape in the front was controlled by my cutting line internally. So I comb everything that I want down flat, I comb it flat. And I just allow the hair to move how it wants to move. I like the idea of showing off the scissor over comb. I don't want it looking too contrived. Okay. I'm just going to spray it with a bit of hairspray. Get the shape that I want. A little bit more inside, a little more of the hair assistant hairspray, and just gently, don't overstyle it. Spray it once and let it go. With the comb. Spraying little bits down. To get a really nice clean shine.
Great wiggle haircut, so I'm just
Okay, so I finished my look. I've got a beautiful colour by Maddie. Maddie, did you talk about the formulation of this?
I did indeed. It was 20 grams of 7.4, a level 7 copper, 20 grams of 5.4, level 5 copper, and then 10 grams of our 8.44, which is our double copper. It's also our copper intensifier, it's a new monochrome, on top of the 3 light and base from the level 4 up to around level 8.
Okay, so just quickly go over my haircut one last time. So I started my haircut, come stand here for me. Okay, so I started my haircut through the sides. I scissor over combed all the shape down. On this side it was slightly more of a slightly more further back in the shape. Okay, and I really opened up the scissor over comb technique and got rid of all the hair there. On the other side, I worked just a slightly more of a squarer shape, not so far back behind the ear. The reason on this side I went behind the ear was to try and basically show off the tattoo. Okay. Then, with my internal shape, what I did is I started behind the ear, round cutting line, working on the base, all the way around to this area here, where my number system changed. I went to the previous to maintain my weight behind this area here. That way, what happens is from the side profile, it looks slightly heavier and slightly more of a graduated type shape. Then my length from the top, my disconnection, I worked started separating the front from the back. At the back, I started with a square cutting line, worked on the base all the way around to the centre, and then over directed everything across. So 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, and then everything back to 5. then through the top, dead centre, square cutting line, then pivoting sections, working on the base with a square cutting line, maintaining all my length in the fringe area. Okay? This is my look. I'm going to very, very quickly draw it for you. Okay, so if you want to come over here.
Can I borrow a word?
Yeah, you do your thing.
Tilly's hair's still wet at the moment, but I just wanted to show you what I like to do once I've rinsed each section of highlights out. So here I just wanted to show you what I meant about getting the hairline. So I comb everything back and I'm just going to push it back against itself so the hair's not stuck to the head. I'm really happy with how close they are there. And then what I'm going to do is almost like I'm cross-checking. So I come across at a diagonal or an angle and just have a look, make sure I've got no leaks and no bleeds there. You'll be able to see that by seeing a line at the root instead of seeing your separation. So if I have a look through the top section here, it might be a little bit more obvious. So if I comb everything over like this, and you just tip your head a little bit for me, Tilly, you can see our colours all running through. So if I come this way, so I'm going opposite direction to how I applied my foils, combing up and away, and just checking my root area through here, just to make sure I've got no stripy bits right on the skin, and that'll mean I've got a bleed. I'm really hoping I don't, because that'll be super embarrassing. No, I think I'm good here, guys. So, always like to check when I'm at the backwash, because this means to fix our leak is super, super simple. All we would do in this scenario, guys, we would pick the hair up, we'd weave out the highlight that we're happy with, and we would get rid of the hair that we're not. So, for example, if I had a bleed here, I would have a look at my blonde hair, pick up my blonde hair that I like. I would clip that out of the way. Totally missed it there. Let me do that again. There's my blonde that I do like. If I can pick it up, yeah. Separate that away, clip that away. I would place my cotton wool underneath, and then just going one shade darker than Tilly's natural depth, 1 to 2, we use a 5 volume with Davinaires. I would just tap that colour on there, another piece of cotton wool over the top, and then that hair can rest on there. That just means that that's going to completely cover any of those leaks that might have happened while you've been highlighting. So I'm just going to check my back section as well, make sure I've got no leaks through there.
And leaks are quite common.
They can be. It depends on the product that you're using, how much your client uses, how close you go to the root. But it's a really simple thing to fix if you know how, like I just showed you. So when I'm checking as well, guys, as I pull back and then I just push up a little bit. We need to push the hair away from the head when it's wet to just determine whether there's anything down there. And I think I am good. Can't see anything at the moment. No. Brilliant. So I'm just going to check my final section. I'm going to check my last one, which is my bleach here. Carefully opening that so I can shut it again. Just check another couple. And what I'm going to do, Tilly said to me earlier when I had a consultation with her that she really likes the golden warm tones in her hair. So I'm not going to over process the hair and make it white when I don't need to. I'm going to lift it to a nice golden, and then I'm going to use the temporary colours from Davinaires, which are the Alchemic range, a slightly golden shampoo and conditioner, just like you'd get your silver shampoo and conditioner, but this time with a slightly gold tone. So we just make sure that's kept in the hair all the way through. And I think I'm happy with that. I don't want to over process it. It's around the level that I want with a slight hint of gold left in there. So I'm going to shampoo, condition, we're going to blow dry, and then I'm going to make a little video and a couple of pictures for you just to see exactly how the result of our highlights turn out. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
And if you want to bring it here, be done in 2 seconds. So I've pre-drawn a lot of the haircut very quickly, so do excuse how clean and how messy it is. But it's really important that you understand the principles and the values of diagrams, because it really helps people understand how the haircut was created, how it works, the method of working. It helps you understand the number system. So here we worked, the number system went backwards like this, across like this, and across like this. And on this side, Andy, up over there. everything came back, didn't it? So at section 3 it all came back. Here it came back. And then here it came round. Okay, and my cutting lines is what I'm going to draw next. So that's my sectioning and my over direction. Now I'm going to draw my... So here it was a V. I forgot what it was. Then it went up. Like that. And then it came round and followed the head shape to show the tattoo off. The overall shape through the back was... I'll zoom in here, Andy, on this one. On here, the cutting line was round here, but it went slightly squarer just around the base. It's still round, but just not so fitted. Okay. Horizontally, on this view here, my shape on the underneath was round. This was my expanded shape, isn't it? So my expanded shape basically was green. It's going to be green, and it got slightly longer on this side through the back, whereas on the other side it was the same length all the way around, like this. Okay. In the top, my cutting line here was square to maintain my length, and then my cutting line here was also square, but it was much tighter to maintain my length in my fringe. Okay, so that is how I drew my shape. Of how it was cut. Good. I'm going to call it a day. So my overall haircut, that's what it looked like. What I'd like to say is thank you. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you've enjoyed the Allilon Unplugged number 8. Maddie's done an amazing job with the colour. I hope you've liked my haircut. I hope you've appreciated Sam's input. I want to say thank you to our guests for being here with us today. It was an honour having them here, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. Okay, and we'll see you next week with Nikki Polk. Please, please, please plan your questions, because next week is going to be a very, very special, intimate scenario. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next week. All the best.